Okay, so now we are being recorded, so people are watching us in the present and in the future as well. What a paradox, isn't it?
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. We're so happy to have these two people here with us today. We're delighted to welcome Beata and William. They're going to talk about speech technologies for pronunciation teaching. I know that we love all things that have to do with pronunciation, but this is something that not a lot of people talk about. I don't think we've ever had a webinar on this topic, right, Victor? Have we?
Not quite recently, no. The past 2 years, maybe, no.
Yeah, I can't recall. Yeah, so folks, remember that certificates are provided to anyone who's watching the webinar live, so it doesn't include you guys in the future. If you attend the whole webinar, you'll automatically receive an email containing your certificate after the webinar has finished. If you're watching the recording, please make your own note of your own professional development activity. There will be time for questions at the end of Beata's and William's talk. And please use the Q&A box. Avoid the chat because we get a little bit confused trying to catch up with the chat. There are always too many people. So use the Q&A button, and the Q&A button appears when you move your mouse to the bottom, your cursor to the bottom of the window. And I think that's it. Let me introduce these two wonderful people. This font is too small, so I'm probably going to be funny here, squinting my eyes a little bit. So Beata Walesiak has worked as a teacher and a teacher trainer, specializing in pronunciation and technology supported. Sorry, it's too small. I'm too blind. Technology supported teaching. Currently, she's working as a linguist for a mobile pronunciation app, ELSA, and continues her work via unpolish.pl. And we also have William. So technology is wonderful. One is in Europe, the other is in South America. And William is an MA candidate in English linguistics at the Federal University of Santa Catarina, Brazil. He holds a BA in software analysis and development, and a BA in Portuguese and English language teaching. We are super excited to have them here with us. So happy. And guys, the floor is yours.
So hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm going to start screen sharing, and then I'm going to start the part of the presentation. I'm going to be the first one. Okay. So yeah, today we're going to talk a little bit about speech technologies. Thanks, Taylor, for the introducing part. And first of all, the fun fact here is that I am in south of Brazil, from Blumenau, and Beata and I, we are more than 11,000 kilometers apart. So Beata is speaking from Warsaw, the capital city of Poland, and we are able to do this just because of technology, right? But we are here to talk about a different kind of technology, speech technologies. So first of all, I'm going to start with some research on their effectiveness, and then I'm going to talk more about practical applications. So this is suggestions of activities and ways to introduce them in and out of the classroom. I'm going to talk more about web browsers, and then Beata is going to talk about mobile apps in the second part of this webinar. We are going to talk a little bit about opportunities behind those speech technologies and also their limitations. And our target audience for the activities are teenagers and adults, but we can adapt. I'm sure that you know the context you're teaching, and we can always make some adaptations, and perhaps you can use this too. So starting with the speech technologies, first we have automatic speech recognition, ASR. It's also called the speech to text, and basically transcribes speech based on oral input. And then we have text-to-speech, also called like TTS, that automatically generates synthesized speech from units of written text. So we have the text there, and it reads in a synthesized voice. Examples of ASR we can find on like web browsers. Just we have that microphone on Google web search, and you click and you do some voice search there, or on YouTube you can find this microphone as well. Voice typing, use Microsoft Word or Google Docs, for instance. Smart assistants like Alexa and Siri, you talk to the assistant, right, using your voice, and mobile apps and conversational agents on mobile. And then we have the TTS part. For example, online translator, we have that icon of like a speaker icon, and we can listen to the application talking to you. Also, there's the microphone that would be the ASR. Immersive readers, we have, for example, them on Microsoft Edge, when we can go on web and ask the browser to read aloud some part of the web page. And also, again, smart assistants, for example, Google Now or Cortana, when the assistant answers you back with the synthesized voice. Considering this, what are this research on ASR, right? First of all, we must talk about learning autonomy in and out of the classroom. So this, I think, is the most important topic here, and we are going to listen to me and Beata talking about this quite a lot. And more willingness to communicate and reduce foreign language anxiety, because you're going to talk to an algorithm, so you don't feel like scared, or you know that the other person is not bored of you like repeating many times. And also oral production improvement, and because of this limitless opportunities to practice speech, so you can keep repeating as much as you want. Also facilitating the evaluation of pronunciation and positive influence on students' learning process, as many other technologies do as well. About the TTS part, we have support on limitless oral input and useful for out-of-class assignment. So as I mentioned, we can go on web and read to and listen to different varieties of texts. Efficient and personalized feedback, raising learners' awareness to specific features and forms according to the activity plan, right? Increase the learning autonomy, again, in their own phonological development, and reinforcing grapheme-phoneme relationships that is really, really important for pronunciation, teaching, and learning. What about the practical application? What if we put them together, ASR and TTS? I'm going to talk a little bit about on the web part. But before we go to that, we should talk a little bit about the methodology. And the activities here, we are focusing on intelligibility. This is a very important word in our area, right? And we have this communicative framework for teaching pronunciation from Celso Murci et al. 2010. And they offer 5 stages of the activities, right, to prepare this pronunciation teaching. And we believe that putting them together, we can meet this, all of the work with all of these stages. For example, description and analysis, we can show the form using TTS, for instance. Listening to discrimination, we can use TTS. Imagine of a list of regular verbs with different ed endings, and we have there, and we can ask students to listen to the audio coming from the TTS, and then they should divide them into columns, 3 columns, right? And then we have controlled and guided practice that we can do using ASR. For example, dictation practice. For a guided practice, we can have like a simple sentence with gap information. For example, how old are you? And then the student should answer, I am 28 years old, for instance. And for communicative practice, we can use ASR and TTS for rehearsal, rehearsing to like presentations or role play activities, or even combine some other tools and make a more communicative practice, as we can see in some minutes. Also, I should mention the criteria for call task appropriateness from Chappell 2001. I'm not going to go for each criterion, but I shall mention that if we design a task, we can focus on both form and meaning. Also, number 4, authenticity. this is a very important one because we can make or plan with different texts from TTS following some students' interests. So this is a good and important topic. And also number 6, practicality. So once we need internet, we need we need a quiet environment. So sometimes we should adapt, for example, as an assignment or homework, because maybe inside the classroom might not be that practical. So we need to bear this in mind. So putting them together, we have the input from TTS, the output from ASR, and this should be seen as a complement to classroom instruction and suitable for extra class activities. It's not meant to be a replacement for the teacher, okay? These are tools to be implemented and complement a classroom instruction. Potential for individualized instruction, as you can see during the activities, and for the learner, more interaction opportunities, feedback, more feedback, more contact with the target language, and also increased motivation and interest. Now, let's go to the practice. So we started with some basic one, maybe you already know that, but if we go here to Google, on Google, and we type like a word, schedule definition, we can listen to it. So this is TTS. So if we search by voice, clicking here, Google is going to read the answer to us. So this could be implemented in a very fast way, like to know the definition of something. So if you go like to schedule definition.
This is the definition of schedule, a plan for carrying out a process or procedure, giving lists of intended events and times.
So this is important to mention that it only works if I search by voice. If I type this, the DTS is not gonna be read automatically. All right, I can go for the typing version, and you're gonna see that it's not gonna be read, right? But now if we click here on listen,
schedule,
it opens a chance to click on learn to pronounce. Not all the words are here though. More complex words, Google has this feature, all right? And we can also access this feature by typing how to pronounce a word. For example, gorgeous. It's the same feature here, okay? First, we can listen.
Gorgeous.
We can listen a little slower.
Gorgeous.
And then we can click on practice. Gorgeous. So here we have the instant feedback. And also we can listen to ourselves pronouncing it. Gorgeous, like this. As my experience has shown, basically you need a quiet room. Like this is very sensitive. Like if there is too much room, it doesn't work quite well. And if we pronounce like, for example, I'm gonna try to make some deviation here, like gorgeous. Let's see how it works. Gorgeous. Here, it gives you like personalized feedback. You may have mispronounced that sound, that specific sound, and you can listen to examples of that sound.
Jug, edge, jewelry.
So this is a very interesting feature, right? Yes, so these are interesting for complex words and also to teach expression. So if you go to the voice type and click on like, oh, kick the bucket definition, then the TTS is going to read automatically. So it can use to work with vocabulary as well. All right, so there we go. The next one, I'm going to use a different website called Speech Notes. Don't worry, the links will be available to you. And the only thing that you have to bear in mind that we need to allow the web page to use your microphone. So the first time you click on the microphone here, there will be like a pop-up window and you have to click on allow. It's not going to happen to me because I have already allowed this app to use. So first of all, we can offer like some dictation passage. Let's say the house is yellow. First, we listen to it. Pay attention that we have different variety of English here, all right? It may differ from computer to computer as well. So let's say that I'm going to go for English United States, and let's listen. Oops. I'm going to refresh it here, copy and paste.
The house is yellow.
The house is yellow, right? And then we can ask students to repeat after listening to it, right? The house is yellow. As you can see, we can also add comments here, like for example, period, right? Period. And you have a list of comments here. So this is an interesting feature too. You can also save the notes that you have been making and so on, save and print. So it's a basic, like there are many opportunities to practice dictation here. Just a different tool if you don't want to use, for example, Google Translate, although it works pretty well too. So moving on to a little bit more complex, let's say a more communicative task. So let's suppose that you want to ask your students to do some Google review, but instead of writing it, we're going to voice type it. So the first goal, like for example, go for a coffee place near your house and make a review on the last coffee place you've been to. So you're going to go there and you're going to click on the review button that write a review. But before writing, we're going to use a different website called twophonetics.com. And let's say ask students to write down what they want to voice type before to rehearse. Let's say that I want to say the place is beautiful. If you click on show transcription, you're going to have here the IPA transcription, so another feature, right? And also some different variety of English. It depends on your system. It might show more or less. We practice with Beata, for example. I have here only 2 in this website, but you can combine and use different websites as I shown previously. So let's go for this one. We can change this speed, right? The speech rate here, let's say.
The place is beautiful.
A little faster.
The place is beautiful.
And so on. So once we practice writing and listening, let's rehearse the output. So you can go on Google and go for Google Docs. Remember that you need a Google account. This is important. Once you open Google Docs, a new document, we can click on Tools and go for voice typing, right? Tools, voice typing. First of all, we need to select the variety of English that we are speaking. So I'm going to go for English United States here. Also, if you need more comments, like you can click on the question mark here and you have a list of comments that you can use with your voice, right? When we click here, remember that first we listen into it and then we're going to practice the output. The place is beautiful. Period. Great, so we practice. This is interesting to check grammar as well. So let's say that I made some mistake here and said the place are beautiful. We can use this spell checker on Google Docs to have like feedback on grammar and clarity as well. Let's go back. So once I practice, I can copy the text that I rehearsed with my voice, go back here and use this. Remember, you can go direct to this point. We don't need to type first. We can start with the voice type and then listen. This is up to you. You can make some variations here. But this is a way to integrate the 4 skills, right? Also, we could read something before, how to evaluate a coffee place or somehow, right? Going to the next activity. I'm gonna go for, there we go, shadow reading. So first of all, I'm not gonna go with details on shadow reading, but we should not go use this as the first activity using ASR because it's a little bit more complex. If you want to know more about shadow reading, go for a specific source for this. But in this place, I'm going to use, for this activity, Microsoft Edge. It's a different web browser. I was using Google Chrome before, and the immersive reader feature. If you want to know more about it, I would ask you to go for like some tutorials on the internet. There are plenty of them for free on YouTube. Just go immersive reader tutorial on Microsoft Edge and you find many good source of interesting things to use. Also, this is good for authentic material. So go for what your student want to learn, right? Individualized instruction. And we're going to use Google Translate just to show that it's a very simple way to use ASR. So going for Microsoft Edge here, I'm going to go for a very nice source of information that is a PronSIG blog. And I found this article very interesting, so I'm going to show you with this passage here. First of all, we click with the right button of the mouse, and we have this feature here, read out loud selection, right? This A with some vibration icon here. Once we click here, this opens a little bit of like in this part of the screen, and you can choose voice options. First, again, the variety, we can go for Nigeria, South Africa, and so on, many different varieties. I will go for Canada this time. And again, you can control here the speed. Once you set up this, we can click on this play button and listen to the app reading the selection, right? So again, I'm going to select this and continue to read aloud.
Pronunciation reflects our feelings and mental states. We let others know how we perceive them and their message by dropping or raising our pitch and volume. We communicate.
And then there we go, right? But again, I said about shadow reading. So for the shadow reading, you need a different tab to click on the microphone button, right? Once I click here, it's gonna start dictating everything. So I'm gonna just show the activity. You click, you go back here, and you ask to read the selection, and you're gonna listen to the TTS and repeat after the TTS, like a shadow reading activity would generally happen, right? So I'm gonna go for this right now just to show you.
Pronunciation reflects our feelings and mental states. We let others know how we perceive them
and their message by dropping and so on, right? I click here on stop just so you get the idea. Oh, I didn't click on the microphone button. Let's do it again really fast.
Pronunciation reflects our feelings and mental states.
So I just read this part. I will copy the text. Oops. This was me talking, right? And what we can do is to copy and paste the text and compare the text using Google Translate here. So apparently I pronounced exactly here, but let's say that I didn't say mental states correct. I can double click on the word and listen to the specific word that I'm mispronouncing.
Mental,
and keep practicing. So again, we can use any sort of web page text and so on. The first time you practice, you see that, okay, I didn't do like or fast enough, or sometimes you have to practice sometimes more times so you get the idea of the feature, but it can work just fine. Also, it has this option to enter immersive reader. I'm not going to go for this, but it's an interesting way to not see like advertisement. And here you have more reading preference, for example, line focus. So when we are reading, we can focus exactly on the message itself. So it's better that you by the way, you can focus, and learning demands attention, right? So this is a feature. So the last feature, I go back to Google Chrome now. And the last activity, I'm going to show a different website called voicenotebook.com. And also there is a mobile app available, right? So if you want to download the app, in here, I will use like some minimal pair practice with read and had that for Brazilian speakers are quite difficult. And the idea here is first we have this recording feature that you can click. So it's going to record your speaking thing. And then we are going to start recording. But before doing that, we can listen to the TTS in advance. So again, we have different variety. I'm going to go for Google US English, but you can select different variety and different language as well. So first, let's listen.
Redhead.
Right? So this is the tool. And then if we click start recording, we are going to use ASR. Redhead. So here, for example, it got hat instead of had. And this is a good way to see if I was close enough, because there is like this alternative box. So red hat, red hat, red hat. So am I in the right path? Because the algorithm got this here. And this is really important to pronounce, for example, red, let's say red. What happens is to check for homophones, right? So it got red, but maybe the student was trying to say read in like the past tense of the verb read. So this is another opportunity. If you make a mistake, you can repeat over and over and over and over again. Let's go back to the read and had, like read and had. Read, had. So sometimes it can get like one word, right? And so on, but here you have the alternative. So this is a way to cope with maybe a lack of feedback on ASR because you have different alternatives. And also, again, you can listen by clicking on playback recording here. Read, had, and then you have your own voice. So this is another interesting feature. And finally, you can go to compare to text. And of course, here it got only one word, but let's say that it was like the second option here. And you compare to text, you have the comparison to the TTS field. So thinking about a passage, a whole passage, you can compare as well. So again, this was the last tool that I want to show to you using ASR, but we can combine the tools that I showed to you. If you prefer Voice Notebook, go for it. If you prefer Speech Notes, go for it. If you prefer Google Translate, you can go for it. All right, but some of them we have more accent variety, for example. This is a very nice thing. So here we go. And right now, we are going to change to mobile, and I'm going to leave this part to Beata, right? Beata.
I'm here. You can't see me, but you can hear me. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Hello. As you can see, we are nicely color-coded. So now it's my turn. Hello, everyone. Haven't seen some of you for a while. If you've come to my previous presentations, then maybe you've seen some of these things, but I think it will be interesting to you anyway. Okay, so let me share the screen. Okay. So this part of the talk is devoted to ASR and TTS on mobile. And this is related partly to the research that I conduct in mobile assisted pronunciation training. Just a little bit of theory at the beginning, and then I'll go into more of the application. As I said, I'm doing some research into mobile assisted pronunciation training, so I'm interested in looking at apps from different angles and seeing what is useful for in-class practice. So I also was looking at apps from the perspective of the Selson Garcia's cognitive framework of pronunciation teaching, and I figured out that actually all of them can be used for certain steps in that framework. So when it comes to ASR and TTS, actually the answer will be that in all types of these apps, both speech technologies exist. So we've got dictionary apps or translators with voice search. So that's something that William has already mentioned, and they can be suitable for things like description and analysis, listening discrimination tasks, or controlled and guided practice. We also have the operational system default apps, such that are usually built into the phone or tablet when you buy it into the system, if you're using Android, for example. And these will be web browsers and voice recorders. And just as William was showing a moment ago, you see, I'm not really original because I'm repeating certain things about after William, because they do exist in mobile environment too. So web browsers, voice recorders, they are really useful for controlled and guided practice, and they can be used on the phone or a tablet on a mobile device. And there are also, on the one hand, we have dictionaries and translators, and also these default OS apps, but also we've got apps designed specifically for language learning. And these guys, their ASR and TTS might be useful for both controlled, guided practice and some communicative practice. However, this communicative practice is a little bit specific. You'll see why in a moment. And then in some of the apps, like the one I'm cooperating with, Elsa, there are some assessment features that use artificial intelligence generated feedback and scoring, which might be even useful for something out of the framework or maybe within it. So needs analysis or summative and formative assessment. And then the other type of apps, which right now you start wondering whether they are apps at all. These are the conversational agents or virtual voice assistants. And these guys are very useful for controlled and guided practice, and more of a communicative practice, like a two-way conversation, would you believe? But wait until I finish to see whether it actually makes sense to you too. Okay, so a few activities, if you don't mind. Now, the Google Translate app, William mentioned that earlier, and it's a quite popular app, and generally everyone uses it. All the students that I've had come across in my life use it very extensively, sometimes illegally. No, I'm kidding, of course. But when you use that for pronunciation development, you can use it, for example, for controlled practice. And let's say ash is the target sound over here. A lot of Polish students I've been working with have that problem. You may ask your learners to dictate words or shorter phrases that have this target feature and see how many times the app gets it right. And so I've chosen ankle in pain as opposed to uncle in pain. So I asked some of my students to repeat it several times. And then afterwards, I collected the output that the ASR produced with the help of the Mentimeter word cloud functionality. If you're not familiar with Mentimeter, over here in the slide, you've got a link hidden behind the word. And so you'll be able to see it's a free and both paid app, a tool, online tool, and also an app. But the free functionalities are really useful, and you don't need to pay anything to use the word cloud functionality over there. So answer to the question was, the question was, how did Google Translate understand you? And they were supposed to put all the attempts, and out of 25 attempts made by 2 students and 1 teacher, just as just an example, 11 were successful. So this is how many times the speech recognition actually worked over there. And we got ankle in pain, but in the screenshot, you can actually see some of the alternatives over there. I was actually surprised what ankle in pain is, but I think it's a brand name. God knows why Google actually picked it up. This also raises awareness of the learners and awakens their curiosity. After that activity, people, your students, they really want to try out other expressions and see how this works. And they actually try multiple times. Just a simple exercise, but still an idea worth considering. Also, staying with Google Translate app, you can adapt ready-made tasks to use them with the ASR. And that's going to be a hello to Mark Hancock, who I think is right now in the room. So Mark Hancock created a lovely series of fantastic activities. The series of books is called PronPack, and you might find the link over here in the slide. So Mark suggests lots of more meaningful gap info tasks, and these can be used for pair work. For example, asking the way with the help of a street map. So this is the original street map from Mark Hancock's PronPack 3. Activity 3.4. This is just a piece. There are multiple over there. There are multiple versions of this map available, where students are supposed to explain to each other how to get from point A to point G, or from point C to point I, and so on and so forth. In here, you could ask your students to dictate pairs of minimal questions or pairs of minimal sentences that include these roads, and see how the ASR actually reacts to it, whether it can actually understand what is being said. So this is more like a checkup app in this case. If you think about dictations of longer texts, well, the first idea would be like, yeah, let's use Google Translate. Well, can I just say Google Translate in this respect is not the most reliable thing, because it usually, probably because of chunking training, it usually stops listening to the person after 1 or 2 sentences. So what I would suggest is using notepad apps, such as Color Note. But if you're using iPhone, I'm not really sure if this is available over there, but you can try any other notepad app that uses keyboard voice input or voice typing. And by the way, the setting of the language that you use over there is quite important. So it would be a good idea for starters to ensure that learners use the same target variety in order to receive similar results. The most important thing here is, if you are planning to work with any app, such as any app that is that uses ASR, it would be good to spend some time, and I'm not even saying a minute, but actually sometimes even, depending on the number of people in the group, between 10 to 15 or even 20 minutes, just making sure that everyone knows that it's not their mother tongue that is set as the target over there, but the other language. And this could be found in the settings of the keyboard for each system. You choose a longer text and you help your learners prepare to read it. Well, basically you do the inner voicing, mouth mouthing, mirroring and shadowing activities. This is a usual practice. And afterwards, you ask them to dictate the text to the ASI. And they ask them to do it multiple times. And once they're happy with the version, the final version, ask them to work in pairs and spot the similarities and differences against the original text. Here, the point is to encourage reflection. How did the ASI work with both of them, for both of the students in the pair? Is there something that they could improve on? And one of the most important questions, is it their pronunciation or is it the ASI? And how do they know? And also for comparison, you can ask which ASI is more reliable if they're using different devices and different ASRs. For example, on the left-hand side, you see a Samsung phone. On the right-hand side, you see a Google phone, and they have different ASR systems over that. The original text was "Please call Stella," that I'm sure many of you know. It's the one available from the Speech Accent Archive. And I would like to show you how that worked when the same student was dictating it to both phones at the same time. So give me one more second. I should mention this. Working with technologies is a great thing because we tried multiple times with William and the video was loading perfectly and I was able to play it. At just the moment we started the presentation, it didn't feel like doing so. So let me just get out of it and I'll show you that in full screen. Okay, I hope I'm sharing sound. There you go. Take a look.
Please call Stella. Ask her to bring these things with her from the store. 6 spoons of fresh snow peas, 5 thick slabs of blue cheese, and maybe a snack for her brother Bob. We also need a small plastic snake and big toy frog for the kids. She can scoop these things into 3 red bags and we'll go meet her Wednesday at the train station.
Okay, so you see that was the English UK that was used for this model. And let's get back to the slideshow. Did you hear it well? I hope. Taylor, Victor, or William, was that loud and clear?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So just a comment on this. That was quick, so I'm sure that when you get the video of this webinar, you'll be able to see it. But this is a screenshot of the result of the output. And as you can see on the left-hand side, Samsung was able to produce something longer, something which seems longer, and then Google was actually producing something shorter. And but when you look at it in detail, you actually see that Samsung kept, ASR kept repeating certain phrases. So we could see how it was actually thinking. So like maybe a snack for her breasts, well, hello, maybe a snack for her brother Bob, or here she can scoop these things into 3 red, she can scoop this fixing to 3 red bags. So here we got alternatives, so we see how the system is learning. And then for Google, this is actually not bad, especially if you compare it to the original. So what you do afterwards, you ask students to spot the differences, ignoring for a while the preparation stage that some of the apps may, some of the ASIs may display. And you focus on the actual things that the ASI didn't get. And these problems here, this is what was different from the original in the Samsung output. These are actually problems that many Polish students struggle with. Final devoicing, spoons, peas, slabs, frog, these things. And they were not understood properly by the app. When it comes to Google, well, the only thing that is different from the original is this little a, the little article over here. But that's not because Google didn't get it, but that's because the speaker didn't produce it. So as you can see, Google in this case turned out to be more reliable. And this provokes more ideas on behalf of the learners they can try out with other texts, dialogues, and so on and so forth. Another thing that you can be using is ELSA app, something different. This is the app that you download from your app store, both Android and iPhone and Apple OS. You can use it for needs analysis, for example. It has this functionality called assessment tests. I'm showing in the slide how to find it. And what happens over there, you take a 10-minute assessment and basically you read out around 16 sentences to the AI, which is in the app. And the AI analyzes it and provides you feedback on the sentences. You can also you can see the sentences and you can play the original recording, the original ELSA, and yourself against it. You also get the score. Now, I think this is oh yeah, that's the score that it gives you in the end. I think it's a great thing because it produces a detailed report, and on the basis of this, it offers personalized tasks. And even though ELSA is not entirely a free tool, because in order to get access to all its functionalities, you need to pay, but there are about 40 to 50 activities which are available for free in the demo version, so you may profit from that too and try it out yourself. You can also ask your students to screenshot it for you and send it to you, or upload it onto Padlet, for example, and see how they dealt and what kind of problems there are. So this is like a quick needs analysis, especially if you're dealing with large groups. For now, only General American is the target variety here, but maybe more will appear soon, who knows. Also, ELSA has a new thing called Speech Analyzer. It's a game which offers some one-way practice, more guided of a practice, a little bit communicative here. And you may make your learners' practice more relevant, especially when you're preparing them for job interviews, as this game offers mock job interview, or for like a daily English practice. There are lots of questions over there, or IELTS. So what students can do, they can practice in one of the 5 games, and they can rehearse. And on the basis of that, they see the transcript of their speech, as this one here, and predicted score for IELTS. I'm sorry, I didn't include that screenshot, but you can see it for yourself. And again, this is available in the free version. So these tasks enable the user to practice the free speech and receive some feedback on their delivery. The user is prompted with a few questions, and they are answering that. And on the basis of this, the AI provides feedback. Another, and I think the final thing for today, is Google Assistant. And I mentioned earlier that this conversation is sort of a thing that you may want to turn a blind eye to. Well, you know what, like I would say 2 years ago, I would be like sitting with my both eyes shut, because, well, there were a few sentences, phrases that you were able to dictate to Google Assistant, and maybe it got it right. Right now, it's really impressive. Have a look. You'll see some screenshots in a moment. But when you start with Google Assistant, obviously you need to try it out yourself. By the way, I'll emphasize that in a moment, that whatever I'm showing to you, or whatever William is showing, before you introduce it in the classroom or as home assignment, you need to try it out yourself. When you start with Google Assistant, you start with simple vocabulary and fact finding, usually. Something that William showed you earlier on, asking where the best, the nearest coffee place is. But you may also encourage your learners to work in class or as home assignments to look up more facts, more names, more locations. Weather, looking up weather. I mean, asking Google Assistant about the weather is a good start, and the conversation can start here. For more guided practice, you can even encourage experimenting with the Google Assistant and prepare a few basic questions for lower level students. And you may also let your more advanced students try it out themselves. And so here are the conversations that can appear. So you can, this is not, it's just a screenshot, not recording, but you can ask Google, hey Google, can we have a chat? The Google replies with, sounds like it's time to stick the kettle on. Sounds like a proper conversation. So what should we do? We ask, well, Google suggests, let's talk about something weird. Want to hear an interesting fact? And then you're prompted with, as you see at the bottom of the screen, you're prompted with some suggestions, but you can try to produce something of your own. Then you can ask Google about its, her, his, their, you see, I don't know which pronoun actually to use over here, family. And you may actually ask some more personal questions and look at how Google answers to these. Do you have kids? I don't, but hopefully it can help a few tasks go smoothly for the people who actually have kids. That's what it continues with. Google's Hope, Nino Tosca, that's the product manager for Google Speech and Google Assistant, says that they want to be able they want us to be able to just to talk to the Google Assistant like you would with another human. That's their aim, and apparently next year there will be more features introduced. Who knows where they go to. But I'm kind of really amazed by what is going on right now in Google. Have a look. To a question, do you have a boyfriend? Google replies with, I'm happy to say I feel whole on my own. Plus I never have to share the dessert. A random idea was, but you don't know what love is. Just sort of follow up on what Google said. And Google replied with, love is just a word until someone comes along and gives it meaning. Okay, you do know that there is a human behind it. Human designed this voice bot, and human put it all into the machine. But on the basis of this, the machine started learning. And so this is where it's going to. My tips over here is that you may go to a website where all the Google Assistant games and features are listed over here on the left-hand side. I'm leaving a link into the slide, and see over there what commands to ask the Google Assistant to receive some feedback. There are multiple. You can start with chat with your assistant and look, these, if you ask Google Assistant these questions, you can get quite decent answers. And there's more movies, music, news and magazines. You can not only use the Google Assistant right now for fact finding, but also for using it in the classroom. Potential per work over here, ask your learners to design conversation they would have with the Google Assistant using the key feature, or for example, to practice terms of intonation. And afterwards, based on the mistakes that they may observe in this discussion, ask them to redesign it and practice with Google Assistant once again. Here an example, that's the procedure. First, ask about a fact, then make a reference to an item in this answer, ask some yes or no, why, how questions, use the prompts that Google Assistant gives you, react to Google Assistant's answers, and come up with your own questions to see where it takes you. And I have a little video over here for you, if you don't mind. Let me just check it, where it is, there you go. Have a look. Oh, and maybe I just mentioned, it was recorded with an external device, with an external phone, just because when you're using screen grabbing, unless you use less appropriate apps, I suppose, you actually are not able to get the microphone, what the Google is actually saying at the same time, because the screen recorder actually uses the microphone. So there is a bit of a limitation over that. But I recorded that with the external device, and have a look. That's the learner speaking to Google Assistant.
What is the most healthy food?
Here is information from UC Davis Health.
What are almonds?
According to WebMD, almonds are rich in valuable nutrients for your body, like magnesium, vitamin E, and dietary fiber.
So just a few questions on fact finding, right? But look, the learner asked Google what almonds are, and now the Google Assistant has replied. It's just a quote from one of the websites, but look at this right now.
A single serving of almonds makes for a nutritious and filling snack.
Right now.
Do you like them?
I love almonds. That whole photosynthesis thing is really fascinating.
I don't know if you notice what is happening. The user did not have to say, do you like almonds, but said, do you like them? And Google itself understood that the conversation was about almonds. So the reference markers over here are really coping quite well. And then...
Why?
Simple question.
That answer is up there with crop circles, aliens, and missing socks.
I don't know if you hear it, there's some music in the background, some alien sounds.
Okay, so tell me a joke.
What happened when the geese fell down the stairs? They all got goosebumps.
You're funny.
Quite funny, eh? I'll take that.
Can you laugh?
Here I go.
You see, the user is prompted with the next question, can you cry?
Can you cry?
Only digital tears of joy when we're talking.
That sounds great.
Great, I'm glad.
And this is where the conversation ends. I know it may seem like a simple conversation, but that's quite impressive. So here are the questions that were used over here, little screenshots so you can see it for yourself. Yeah, so this two-way conversation is still a little bit artificial, but you see where it's getting, and we can suspect that in a few years' time, this might be more advanced. And I don't know, William said that it's supposed to be complementing our training, but I'm just worried that in a few years' time, this may actually substitute certain elements of our training here, which might be actually a good thing too. Now, when it comes to limitations and pedagogical implications, ASR and TTS limitations are quite numerous still, but you need to remember that usually when you work with ASR or TTS, whether it's mobile or web environment, still predictable vocabulary is more desired because some combinations of words might not be ASR may not respond to them well because it doesn't know them. Also, some speaker characteristics may affect the quality, like child speech is still not vastly understood, and well, some of the tools require paid access. When it comes to TTS, text-to-speech, accent variation is offered over there because APIs do offer. Google, I think, offers, when you think 5, 10, 15, I think about 15 different accents, but it's not as wide yet. And the natural speech rate may not at times be, when the TTS is reading, may not be that natural. However, this is a potential advantage because lower level students might be actually interested in repeating or shadowing or mirroring something that is a lower pace. When it comes to accuracy and word error rate, McLaughlin said that Google's accuracy with non-native speech ranged from 88.61% to 93.47%, but that was 2019. It has increased since then, and the word error rate is now below 10% for voice search and voice typing. And this is because there's more and more data and more tools are being trained on it. And as the demand grows, there are speech technology improvements that are noticeable. But for pedagogical implications, well, you need to remember that education technology is not only as good as the humans behind it. So there is still a human behind it. And I hope that in our presentation, we showed you a quick presentation that we showed you that there is some chance to promote learner autonomy thanks to the tools and focus on certain specific learner-specific needs. It could be used in various contexts and facilitate integrating the pronunciation component in our courses. And some varieties are supported, but this is important to test it beforehand. For us, final tips from us: make sure that you try out and do some content analysis of the app or tool, and to achieve better results, you get a good quality microphone, stable internet access, and quiet environment. The environment's still an issue for ASR. If something on the app doesn't work, that's the final message from both of us: report the bug, so the error, to the app developer. This really helps these people at the back end fix the apps and tools, and they're really desperate to get your feedback. So yeah, they're as desperate as my cat over here. We're leaving a few references for you here, so the PDF will be uploaded on the PronSIG's website, so you'll have a chance to have a look at it. But for now, we would like to thank you, and we're really happy that we were able to deliver this presentation. Thank you to PronSIG once again for inviting us, and we're happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much, Beata and William. Now we've had some questions coming from the audience, and please apologies if we cannot get through all of them. Let me see here. The first one is a comment by Lucy Tilney. She said she loved the stuff you presented and think that the technology may have limitations, which is something you also mentioned. William pronounced the word head correctly, according to her, but the ASR came back with hat. Could that be problematic for our students? What do you think of these limitations in general for recognition of speech?
Shall I start, Beata? Can I? Okay, so that's interesting. That's why instead of like showing the video, like I just tried to show to you using the tool, because there are some limitations. First of all, I would like to mention that this could be used as a way of interaction. So what about interacting with the teacher or the peers about, like, was it intelligible to you, not to Google Translate or whatever ASR I'm using? And that's important to use like some playback recording as well, if you can do this, because then you can listen to yourself. No, it was quite intelligible. And that's why the playback feature is a very interesting way to combine speech technologies as well. Then I mentioned that it's a complement because the teacher might be required for not only for getting the feedback straight, but also to show like how to overcome some difficulty. You see that we are practicing here, but what about how can I get to that target feature right? So the teacher might need some explicit instruction there, how to improve the pronunciation itself. And the other one is minimal pair practice. I would suggest some contextualized sentence, and then ASR cope way better. Because if you put like in a sentence, it will not only try to get one word, but in the context, if it makes sense or not. So this is also a helpful way to use it. And again, that alternative box is a great way to show homophones, or to see like, was it correct or not? And just to finish this with one student of mine, he used to say like, instead of hey man, he would say hey ma'am. And it's like, man, it's weird, like, and then I went to that website, and he saw that the ASR got like ma'am, like madame, right? And he was in shock, like, oh my God, I sound like that. And then he listened to himself, and then he accepted the feedback that I was providing to him. So this was a very aha moment for him, right?
Thank you for that. Beata, would you like to add anything? I don't remember if you were going to.
I don't know. I just wanted to say the final devoicing is generally tricky for everything, because a lot depends on the environment and the microphone. Like if, you know, like these little earplugs right now that you've got, with these, the quality of the recording is not the best, even for my own ear, right, when I listen to students. And so you really need to ensure that the device is okay with, you know, newest phones, like I've got one in front of me here. This is being sorted out quite nicely, but still, even when I had my online courses, I would recommend to students when we were doing, would you imagine, in a large group of students, and we would be working with ASR on the phone, and then I would ask them to put like a little handkerchief under the phone, so that the vibrations, you know, like the table itself doesn't influence how the voice is recorded, because of the vibrations that it sort of gives out. So yeah, but yeah, generally final voicing is a tricky thing. Usually like final clusters are a tricky thing for the ASR.
All right, thank you for that. And there was also some comments regarding this reference here to
someone, yeah, exactly. Sorry, I wanted to share it, but I didn't want to disturb William. Sorry for this. I'll do that right now.
Sure. Yeah. Concerning the levels of the learners, someone mentioned this being very fitting for advanced learners and, you know, for advanced techniques. Could you make any comments regarding lower level learners?
Myself?
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, William.
You can go first now.
Throughout the whole time I've been teaching people of various levels, and I find that the lower the level, the more interested the people are in using the technologies, because they're actually not only learning the language but also the technology itself. And I happen to have worked also with a lot of senior citizens, so I would say that, you know, like I like the two phonetics tool that William was showing. I'm happy to say that I was the one who kind of introduced it to William a while ago. And it's a great tool because you can slow down the speech or speed it up for some shadowing and mirroring exercises, which is actually, I think, a good thing. And I found that those students of mine who were using that and they were lower level, they actually liked it. They often wanted a tool, not a dictionary, that would read out portions of text to them, and so that they would be able to repeat afterwards. So that's my comment. I mean, I think this is useful, especially when you can change the rate, the word rate. I normally speak quite slow. I don't know what happened to me today. Someone made that comment over there in the chat. Sorry for this. I'll try to speak more slowly.
No, you're absolutely clear. William, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, actually, I also read on the chat someone saying that these are quite useful when the student and the learner don't have many people to talk to. I think this is the special feat, you know, when and it can be used for beginners as well. I use the sentence, for example, the house is yellow. Yeah, this is very simple for advanced speakers, but yet For some real beginner, maybe even the word yellow or the colors, for example, purple or red, the R sound, it can be very useful and the context will help. For example, this is a red house, and then we have the R and the H together. So this, I mean about context, like someone's talking about, oh, about ship and sheep. Yes, and it can be tricky, it can be difficult. That's why many people focus on the limitation of technology. I like to focus on the affordance. So we got to know the limitations, so we can like circumvent them and then offer the best out right of the speech technologies, and that was the idea. And finally, for advanced speakers, recently one student of mine, ex-student of mine, he deals with a lot of Indian speaker, and for him it's very difficult to understand the accent because we don't get too much input. And then I show like, okay, on Microsoft Edge, you can read everything with an Indian accent. So this was the first thing. And then he recorded himself before going to a meeting. And then he was playing to Google Translate, and one sentence was, na, 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 that, but. And then the connect speech was weird. And then the transcription was dead bird. And then he was like, oh my God, it was so kind of, oh, is that weird? It's like, it's not quite like dead bird, but certainly there was something missing there. And then he could practice specifically that connection. So it can be suitable for beginners, for advanced, but the teacher will guide this process. Simple dictation for beginners, more rehearsing for advanced, or shadow reading for advanced. So we have a range of opportunities there.
Absolutely. I was going to ask as a final question to both of you exactly this, because obviously we're open to all kinds of criticism. This is science that we're doing. We're taking it very seriously. But I think whenever we see something so, like, I don't know, avant-garde, so like feels futuristic, we have lots of reservations about it and start focusing too much on the cons. So like, if it's okay, as a final remark, what would you say are the best affordances? Because as you said, lots of the affordances definitely outweigh the problems, but there's so much good that can be done with this. I'd like you guys, as if you can, you know, for the people who are, let's say, have some reservations about using this, what would you tell them?
Try it out yourself first. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it first. Test it on the relatives first, or anyone who you've got around you, friends, family, and then if it works with them. And I'm saying sometimes if there's a tool, like an app for kids, I often test it on my nephews and nieces first. I mean, of course, I test it on myself first just to see if it's safe. But then I ask them to play around, and if they enjoy it, I know that my adult students would love that too. And so, yeah, I know it might be naive in a way, but that might be helpful. Victor, affordance is the word that we wanted to kind of not to use on this talk because it's a quite complex thing on its own, because you relate to the features, the functionalities of the tool, and the environment that you're using a particular tool or app in. So it's really multi-layered, but definitely don't be afraid. I mean, it's just technology. There's a human behind it, and it's not going to bite back. I don't know, William, yourself?
Yeah, first of all, like as a teacher, I always try to offer like, I like free resources. That's one thing. And I want to, that's something that reduces the workload, right? Because we all have so much to do. So I think this can help, for example, for TTS input from everything, like, oh, if your student likes superheroes, go for superheroes and listen to what it's useful to you. It's relevant to you. So this is one thing. I don't need to be all the time prepared. And the other thing is very important, actually, is that mainly like my experience with teenagers, they love exploring. So I agree with Beata, we should try by ourselves first, right? But then we can, what about them? Like reviewing some of these tools. How was your experience with that? What about keep a diary, like a pronunciation diary, or even like, oh, what out of these apps, which one did you prefer? Like if I preferred like Duolingo and you prefer, go for it. We have a lot of resources there, right? That's why I didn't show one website, we show go for what you prefer the best. And your students should too, right? They are free to decide. That's autonomy as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned about several tools just because my students showed them to me first. So, you know, like you show them one and they're like, oh, and by the way, have you heard about that? And then at the end of the course, everyone really gets interested in that. So yeah, I hope we've answered the questions, Victor.
Thank you very much for that. Everyone, I think that's all we have time for. And so thank you again so much for that incredible talk, Beata and William. And if anyone wants to continue the conversation on this topic, you can comment or reply to a post dedicated to this talk on our Facebook page, Twitter, and Insta channels. Please follow the links we're posting in the chat now to your preferred platform, share your thoughts, and connect with others. Remember to use the hashtag PronSIG so others can follow your comments. And just before we go, here we have our lovely resources, our webinars, the conferences, the journals, the networks, everything you can have access to. And I would like to remind you that if you're not a member already, you can find information about joining IATEFL and PronSIG on our website. This webinar will be available to view again on our YouTube channel, Vimeo, and our website early next week. So thank you all for joining us today. Huge thanks to Beata and William, and until next time, because it's goodbye from all of us at PronSIG now.
Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a great day. Thank you, Beata, William, everyone who's been here with us this morning, this afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are. And just once again, thank you so much for these wonderful resources. I just can't wait to try them out myself.
Yeah.
And thank you, Beata, for everything you do for us at PronSIG. Beata is also our webmaster, besides being a very good speaker. So thank you for your hard work, your dedication, and we love you.
And William, thank you for joining us. It's the second time we have someone from Nupefali at the University of Santa Catarina joining us this year. We had Hosani at the opening the year. So it's really good because for everyone who doesn't know, his university is our dreamland for pronunciation in Brazil. So it's really good to have people sharing their expertise with us every now and then. So thank you, William, and say hello to everyone at your department. I was very thankful for that.
Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.